Tom Thumb is an English author, storyteller, and songwriter known for his lifelong dedication to travel and alternative culture. Beginning his journeys at age 18, he has lived in over 50 countries including India, Israel, Brazil, Japan, and Spain, and now resides in the Czech Republic, which serves as a base for his storytelling tours across Europe. His early work, Hand to Mouth to India, 1997-98, documents his penniless hitchhiking journey from England to India and established his reputation for raw, experiential writing. Subsequent books such as Bozo and the Storyteller, Somewhere Under the Rainbow, Tales of a Road Junkie, and Science for Hippies reflect his evolution from traveler to philosopher-storyteller, addressing themes from adventure and spirituality to critical thinking and alternative living. In 2004, he founded Road Junkie, an alternative travel website offering irreverent, first-hand insights into unconventional journeys beyond mainstream tourism. Beyond writing, Tom curates participatory events such as the Festival of Creativity and the Festival of Sensuality in the Czech Republic, as well as meditation and storytelling retreats in the Moroccan Sahara. His storytelling performances blend humor, cultural reflection, and personal experience, often delivered without amplification to maintain intimacy. Through his creative and communal projects, Tom Thumb has become a distinctive voice in countercultural travel writing, emphasizing authentic human connection, curiosity, and self-discovery through storytelling. Somewhere Under the Rainbow by Tom Thumb paints a vivid portrait of the European rainbow gatherings as a nomadic experiment in freedom, love, and community. In forests and mountains across Europe, thousands of wanderers, artists, and idealists come together to live simply, sharing food, music, and work without money or hierarchy. Thumb captures the spirit of these temporary utopias with humor and honesty, describing muddy Italian hillsides, mosquito-plagued Finnish lakes, and sunlit Tuscan valleys where strangers become family. He explores the tensions between idealism and chaos, spirituality and absurdity, revealing how these gatherings reflect both the flaws and the hopes of modern counterculture. Through laughter, rain, song, and struggle, the book celebrates the messy beauty of people trying, however imperfectly, to live in harmony with each other and the earth. In the introduction, Tom Thumb explains how Somewhere Under the Rainbow came to life, born from years of storytelling around campfires, cups of chai, and nights under the stars at rainbow gatherings. He confesses that writing the book felt both inevitable and risky, an attempt to capture something that thrives on mystery and word of mouth. Though the rainbow family has existed for decades, it remains an open secret, a world apart from mainstream society where those who enter rarely leave unchanged. Thumb introduces the rainbow as more than a hippie gathering, it's a living experiment in community, freedom, and love that defies easy explanation. With humor and affection, he invites readers into that world, knowing that while the rainbow can't be neatly described, its spirit can be felt in the stories, songs, and laughter that fill the pages to come. Part 1, Rainbow Family traces the origins, myths, and evolution of the rainbow gatherings and the people who make them happen. Tom Thumb begins with the hippie movement's spiritual and social roots, weaving in Native American prophecies about the rainbow warriors who would one day heal the earth. He recounts how the first official gathering in 1972 inspired a global movement that spread to Europe in the 1980s, carried by travelers seeking freedom, community, and connection with nature. Through his early encounters with the rainbow family, from suspicion and satire to reluctant admiration, Thumb describes a tribe without leaders or structure, bound by ideals of peace, equality, and love. Yet he also exposes the contradictions within, the chaos of organization, the naivete of some followers, and the irony that this anti-system culture still depends on the very system it rejects. By the end of the section, the rainbow family emerges as both a beautiful and bewildering experiment in collective living, spirituality, and resistance to modern society. In First Time, Tom Thumb recounts his bewildering and often comical first encounter with the rainbow family at the Spanish commune of Beneficio. Arriving skeptical and slightly cynical, he finds himself surrounded by eccentric hippies proclaiming mystical revelations, improvised rituals, and chaotic communal living. What begins as fascination quickly turns to irritation at the movement's naive spirituality and lack of coherence. He mocks self-proclaimed prophets and King Arthurs in reincarnation, but beneath his sarcasm grows a reluctant curiosity. Amidst chai fires, talking circles, and the scent of freedom, he senses an authentic joy and connection that his own cynicism can't dismiss. Though he initially leaves with judgment and disbelief, that first chaotic encounter plants the seed of belonging that will later draw him back into the rainbow world. Origins and Prophecies explores the mythic and historical beginnings of the rainbow family, where countercultural history blends with spiritual legend. He recounts how the movement took inspiration from Native American prophecies, particularly the Hopi vision of the warriors of the rainbow, a future tribe of all colors who would come together to heal the earth, and how these ideas inspired the first rainbow gathering in 1972. From that seed, the gathering spread across continents, carried by word of mouth and travelers who believed they were answering a sacred call. Thumb treats these prophecies with both affection and irony, noting the contradictions and romanticism behind them, yet acknowledging their power to unite thousands under a shared dream. The section captures how a loose network of idealists, hippies, and wanderers transformed a blend of spiritual folklore and political freedom into a living, evolving global tribe. On the Road to the Rainbow vividly describes the chaotic, hopeful journeys that lead travelers to the gatherings, pilgrimages of hitchhikers, bus dwellers, and free spirits following scraps of rumor, hand-drawn maps, or whispers from fellow wanderers. Before the internet, directions spread through postcards and word of mouth, often warped by mispronunciations and hazy memories, sending caravans of hippies on wild goose chases through remote villages and winding roads. Yet, despite confusion, flat tires, and wrong turns, thousands always seemed to find their way, drawn by intuition, serendipity, and the mysterious pull of the rainbow spirit. The section captures the adventure and uncertainty of this odyssey, where getting lost was part of the magic and the journey itself became a rite of passage into the freewheeling, communal world waiting at the end of the road. Who are these hippies? Tom Thumb reflects on the diverse, paradoxical mix of people who make up the rainbow family: idealists, wanderers, dropouts, mystics, and misfits united by a shared rejection of consumer society. He observes that most are from relatively privileged, middle-class backgrounds, able to choose a life of simplicity because they come from societies wealthy enough to allow it. Through humor and self-awareness, he explores the contradictions of the movement, its moral posturing against Babylon while still depending on it for survival, as many rainbow travelers live off discarded food, hitchhike, and rely on modern comforts in subtle ways. Thumb admits he once saw this lifestyle as morally superior until realizing its dependence on the very system it critiques. The section portrays the hippie not as an escapee from society, but as a mirror to it, a symbol of both its failures and its longing for freedom, joy, and authenticity. Disorganization and Rainbow Politics explores the paradox of how the rainbow gatherings function without formal leadership, rules, or hierarchy, and yet somehow manage to work. Decisions are made through long, meandering talking circles where everyone has a voice, often leading to endless debates and comic levels of confusion. Despite the absence of structure, kitchens get built, food gets cooked, and thousands coexist in relative harmony, guided more by goodwill than governance. Thumb highlights both the beauty and the frustration of this anarchic democracy. It empowers anyone to take initiative but also invites chaos, ego clashes, and inefficiency. Through humor and sharp observation, he portrays rainbow politics as an experiment in collective self-organization that succeeds not because of order, but because of shared trust, patience, and a faith, however naive, in the wisdom of the group and the guidance of the Great Spirit. Scouting describes the adventurous and often chaotic process of finding the perfect natural setting for a rainbow gathering. Small groups of volunteers, known as scouts, set out across mountains, forests, and valleys in search of a secluded spot with water, firewood, and enough space for thousands to camp. Their work requires intuition, patience, and luck, as they negotiate with locals, assess the land, and follow signs or hunches from the Great Spirit. Thumb humorously recounts how miscommunication, poor maps, and idealistic decision-making often lead to unsuitable or absurd locations, yet somehow the family always manages to make it work. Scouting, he suggests, embodies the rainbow ethos itself, a mix of chaos, trust, and magic, where human disorganization meets nature's generosity and a sense of destiny guides everyone home. Authorities and the locals explores the uneasy yet often surprisingly tolerant relationship between the rainbow family, the surrounding villages, and local authorities. When thousands of colorfully dressed hippies descend on rural areas, they arouse curiosity, suspicion, and sometimes hostility. Locals worry about land damage or strange rituals, while police and officials struggle to make sense of a leaderless gathering that refuses permits or hierarchy. Yet Thumb also describes moments of warmth and mutual respect, villagers offering food, sharing folklore, or attending rainbow performances, and police occasionally softening when met with smiles and peace signs instead of confrontation. Misunderstandings and cultural clashes abound, but so do small acts of human connection. Through these encounters, he reveals how the rainbow gatherings, despite their chaos, become a meeting point between two worlds, the rooted and the rootless, and how, even amid fear or confusion, kindness can bridge the divide. Part 2. Rainbow Life immerses the reader in the daily rhythms, challenges, and quiet miracles of living together in a rainbow gathering. Tom Thumb describes how thousands of people create a functioning community from nothing, building kitchens, digging latrines, organizing food circles, holding workshops, and relying on donations to the magic hat instead of money. Amidst the mud, hunger, and confusion, he finds humor and humanity in the rainbow's unspoken lessons. That work is shared because no one else will do it. Leadership arises from service, not status, and mistakes are forgiven as part of the flow. From learning to focalize a kitchen or make announcements, to coping with endless rain, burnt rice, or mosquitoes, the chaos becomes a teacher in patience, humility, and cooperation. Through laughter, music, and ritual, Thumb shows that rainbow life, messy, idealistic, and alive, is less an escape from society than a glimpse of how one might live differently, guided by trust, creativity, and love. If you see a job, it's yours captures the self-organizing spirit that keeps rainbow gatherings alive without leaders or schedules. There are no assigned roles. If something needs doing, whoever notices it simply does it. From chopping wood to fixing tarps or guiding newcomers, initiative is the only rule. Thumb humorously recalls his own journey from feeling useless to realizing that even small acts, painting a sign for the latrines, marking paths, or helping cook, sustain the whole community. Mistakes are quickly forgiven, and learning happens through doing, not instruction. Over time, this spontaneous volunteering fosters empowerment and interdependence. Shy newcomers become focalizers, the once clueless become teachers. The section celebrates the rainbow's organic order amid apparent chaos, showing how trust, participation, and shared responsibility replace authority in creating a functional, loving, and resilient temporary society. Seed Camp describes the crucial early stage of a rainbow gathering, when a small group of pioneers arrives weeks before the crowds to prepare the land and lay the foundations for the coming community. These dedicated few, armed with tarps, tools, and optimism, choose where to build kitchens, dig latrines, and mark out the central fire circle, often enduring harsh weather, hunger, and exhaustion while turning wilderness into a temporary village. Without rules or leadership, cooperation and good humor are essential, and mistakes or disagreements are simply part of the process. Thumb portrays Seed Camp as both physically demanding and spiritually rich, a time when the ideals of the rainbow are most alive, as strangers come together through shared work, laughter, and the excitement of creating something from nothing. It is, he suggests, the purest expression of the rainbow spirit, humble beginnings fueled by collective effort and faith in community. Leaders explores the paradox of leadership within a community that claims to have none. At the rainbow gatherings, no one is officially in charge, yet natural leaders inevitably emerge, those who cook for hundreds, organize supplies, mediate conflicts, or simply inspire others through calm competence and dedication. Thumb observes that true leadership in the rainbow isn't about authority but service. The best focalizers are the ones who listen, encourage, and empower others rather than dominate. However, he also notes how ego can creep in, as some mistake influence for spiritual superiority or moral rightness. Through humor and insight, he portrays leadership in the rainbow as a delicate balance between action and humility, a lesson in letting go of control and trusting the collective flow, where guidance arises not from hierarchy but from example, energy, and love for the family. The Kitchen and Supplies dives into the heart of rainbow life, the communal kitchens where food is prepared for hundreds or even thousands without money, electricity, or formal organization. He describes how volunteers of all skill levels chop vegetables, stir vast pots over open fires, and improvise with whatever ingredients the Magic Hat donations can afford. The kitchen becomes both a logistical challenge and a social hub, where cooperation, creativity, and patience are constantly tested. Thumb shares humorous and chaotic moments, like rice that refuses to cook, debates over ingredients, and hungry crowds waiting for food circle, revealing how scarcity and teamwork forge community. The kitchen, he suggests, is where the rainbow's ideals meet reality, a place of generosity and frustration, where the simple act of feeding one another embodies the movement's deeper message of shared effort, equality, and love. Food Circle portrays the twice-daily ritual at the heart of every rainbow gathering, where the entire community comes together to share a meal in a great circle on the earth. Before eating, everyone joins hands, sings songs, and gives thanks, turning a simple act of nourishment into a moment of unity and gratitude. Food cooked by volunteers and distributed in pots passed from person to person, is shared equally, regardless of who contributed what. Thumb captures both the beauty and absurdity of the scene, the mix of laughter, hunger, chaos, and reverence as hundreds wait for their portion. He notes how the food circle becomes a reflection of the rainbow's ideals, egalitarian, spiritual, and human, where strangers become family and daily life becomes ceremony. Despite the mud, confusion, or occasional impatience, these meals symbolize what the rainbow is truly about: community sustained through sharing, song, and love. Announcements describes the lively, often chaotic ritual that takes place before each meal at the Rainbow Food Circle, when volunteers share news, reminders, and requests with the gathered crowd. With no notice boards or central authority, these spoken announcements are how the temporary village communicates about lost children, upcoming workshops, kitchen needs, or respect for the land. Thumb humorously recounts how he evolved from a shy participant into an energetic announcer, using humor, songs, and even clowning to hold the attention of hundreds of hungry hippies. Over time, he sees these moments as a kind of performance art and community glue, an exercise in communication, creativity, and connection. Beneath the comedy lies a deeper truth. Announcements embody the rainbow's self-organizing magic, showing how shared intention and enthusiasm can replace rules and structure, keeping the family informed, inspired, and laughing together. Magic Hat explains the Rainbow Gathering's unique, trust-based economy, where money is replaced by voluntary donations collected in a literal hat passed around after meals. The Magic Hat funds all communal needs, food, supplies, tools, and sometimes compensation to locals, and relies entirely on generosity rather than obligation. Thumb observes how, despite having no accounting system, bank, or budget, the system somehow works. The right amount of money always seems to appear just when it's needed. He contrasts this faith-based model with Babylon's rigid financial structures, noting how the Magic Hat embodies the rainbow's belief in abundance, trust, and shared responsibility. Yet he also acknowledges its challenges, occasional shortages, misplaced funds, and differing ideas about how it should be used, seeing in them the messy beauty of a community trying to live by its ideals. Ultimately, the Magic Hat represents both the fragility and the miracle of a gift-based society sustained by faith in human generosity. Workshops captures the spontaneous, creative spirit of learning at the Rainbow Gatherings, where anyone can become a teacher and every clearing in the forest can turn into a classroom. Workshops spring up organically on everything from meditation, music, and theater to practical skills like fire-making or herbal medicine, reflecting the diversity and passions of the family. There are no schedules or sign-ups, just word of mouth and curiosity. Thumb humorously describes the uncertainty of leading one's first workshop, from wondering if anyone will show up to improvising when plans fall apart, yet he celebrates the freedom it offers, learning and teaching as acts of sharing rather than ego. Without hierarchy or credentials, workshops embody the rainbow ethos of self-expression, participation, and collective growth, reminding everyone that knowledge, like love, multiplies when given freely. Shit Pits tackles the least glamorous but most essential part of rainbow life, the communal latrines that keep thousands living close to nature healthy and sanitary. He describes how simple trenches dug in the earth, covered with ash and soil after each use, become a great equalizer. Everyone, regardless of status or spirituality, must visit them sooner or later. With humor and honesty, he dismantles Western taboos around bodily functions, pointing out how dealing with one's own waste fosters humility and respect for the land. He also recounts the chaos when pits aren't properly dug or marked, turning sanitation into a collective crisis. Ultimately, Thumb uses the shit pits as a metaphor for the rainbow itself, unglamorous, earthy, and imperfect, yet sustained by shared responsibility and the willingness to get one's hands dirty for the good of the family. Rainbow Police humorously explores how the rainbow family maintains peace and order without formal authority or enforcement. Instead of police, the community relies on the Shanti Sena, a peace army inspired by Gandhi's principles, where anyone can step forward to mediate conflict simply by shouting Shanti Sena. Disputes are handled through calm conversation, empathy, and collective presence rather than punishment. Thumb describes how this system sometimes works beautifully, diffusing tension with compassion and humor, and at other times descends into confusion or farce when too many self-appointed peacemakers get involved. Through these anecdotes, he shows both the strengths and absurdities of non-hierarchical conflict resolution. It depends entirely on goodwill and communication. The Rainbow Police embody the rainbow's radical idealism, a faith that community harmony can be maintained through cooperation and love rather than control or coercion. Talking Circles describes the rainbow family's method of collective decision-making, where everyone sits in a circle and speaks one at a time while holding a talking stick. The process embodies the rainbow's ideals of equality, listening, and non-hierarchy. Every voice has value, and no one is above another. Thumb portrays these gatherings with both affection and amusement. Discussions can be profound, healing, and unifying, but also exasperatingly slow, meandering, or dominated by long-winded idealists. Yet, despite the chaos, the talking circle remains the emotional and political heart of the rainbow, a space where conflicts are resolved, decisions are made, and the sense of family is renewed. Through patience and presence, he suggests, the circle teaches one of the rainbow's deepest lessons, that true community is built not through control or efficiency, but through listening, respect, and shared time. Part 3, Rainbow culture explores the rich, eccentric tapestry of life, art, and spirituality that defines the soul of the rainbow gatherings. Tom Thumb delves into the customs and symbols that bind this transient tribe together, the main fire as the communal heart, spontaneous music and singing, open nudity, free love, hugs, workshops, and improvised rituals that blur the line between play and prayer. He observes how the rainbow becomes a living expression of humanity at its rawest, joyful, awkward, sensual, idealistic, and deeply communal. Yet he also exposes its contradictions, spiritual posturing, romantic confusion, and the sometimes naive embrace of pseudo-enlightenment. Through humor, affection, and self-awareness, Thumb portrays rainbow culture as both parody and paradise, a chaotic blend of sincerity and absurdity where people rediscover simplicity, vulnerability, and connection beyond the constraints of modern life. The main fire describes the central fire of the rainbow gathering as the symbolic and spiritual heart of the community, a place where people sing, share stories, and gather each night under the stars. It serves as both a practical necessity and a sacred meeting point, drawing everyone together in warmth and light. Around it, strangers become family, conversations flow, and spontaneous music fills the night, giving the rainbow its pulse. Thumb reflects on how the fire embodies the essence of the gathering, unity without structure, spirituality without dogma, and connection born from simplicity. Yet he also notes the chaos and comedy that unfold there, off-key songs, endless drumming, and the occasional ego flare-up, reminding readers that even in its most sacred moments, the rainbow remains beautifully human. The main fire, he suggests, is where the ideals of love, freedom, and community quite literally burn brightest. Weather recounts how the elements, rain, heat, wind, and cold, shape every rainbow gathering, testing both the resilience and the spirit of its people. With no shelters beyond tarps and tents, everyone is at the mercy of nature, learning to laugh through soaked clothes, muddy camps, and blistering sun. He describes the collective moods that shift with the skies, misery turning to euphoria when the sun reappears, and shared hardship forging unexpected camaraderie. The weather becomes a great equalizer, stripping away comfort and control to reveal a simpler, more authentic way of being. Through storms and sunshine alike, Thumb finds that the rainbow's true magic lies in its adaptability, how joy persists despite discomfort, and how surrendering to nature's unpredictability deepens both humility and connection to the earth. Nudity explores the rainbow family's relaxed and often celebratory attitude toward the naked body, seeing it as an expression of freedom, equality, and authenticity. At the gatherings, many shed their clothes to bathe in rivers, dance in the sun, or simply enjoy being unashamedly human, stripping away the masks and social barriers of Babylon. Thumb writes with humor and honesty about the beauty, awkwardness, and sheer variety of bodies on display, some graceful, others far from idealized, and how this openness fosters comfort rather than eroticism. Yet he also notes how outsiders and locals sometimes react with confusion or outrage, and how even within the family, boundaries can blur or be misunderstood. Ultimately, he portrays rainbow nudity not as provocation but as a return to innocence, a reminder that vulnerability and acceptance of the body can reconnect people to nature, to one another, and to themselves. Rainbow fashion delights in describing the colorful, chaotic, and utterly individual style that defines the look of the rainbow family. Far removed from mainstream trends, rainbow fashion is a patchwork of creativity: tie-dye shirts, sarongs, feathers, beads, dreadlocks, and recycled fabrics, all mixed with a joyful disregard for convention or coordination. Clothes are expressions of personality and play rather than status, often handmade or traded, and worn until they fall apart. Thumb notes how this freedom from fashion's vanity becomes its own form of beauty, where authenticity replaces appearance and comfort replaces conformity. Yet he also observes that even in a place that rejects Babylon's norms, subtle hierarchies of style and identity still emerge. Ultimately, rainbow fashion mirrors the movement itself, eccentric, unpretentious, and alive with color, a living collage of self-expression and freedom woven from the cast-offs of the world. Hugs reflects on the rainbow family's deep culture of physical affection, where hugs replace handshakes and personal space dissolves in warmth and openness. At the gatherings, everyone greets each other with long, heartfelt embraces, sometimes holding on for minutes, creating an instant sense of connection and belonging. Thumb observes how this simple act of touch breaks down social barriers, heals loneliness, and reminds people of their shared humanity. Yet he also notes the occasional awkwardness, when newcomers misread intentions or when hugs blur into flirtation, but these moments are outweighed by the genuine care behind them. To the rainbow family, hugging is more than a gesture, it's a language of love and trust, a way of saying welcome home without words, and a living symbol of the community's belief in unity through kindness and touch. Music celebrates the rainbow gathering's endlessly creative and communal soundtrack, where music flows day and night from drums, guitars, flutes, and voices around countless campfires. Without stages, amplifiers, or audiences, everyone is both performer and participant, and songs range from improvised chants to folk, reggae, or bhajans borrowed from Indian mysticism. Thumb captures how music becomes the heartbeat of the rainbow, binding strangers, lifting moods, and turning shared moments into spontaneous celebration. He notes, however, that not all of it is harmonious. Endless drumming, off-key singing, and repetitive mantras can test one's patience, yet even that chaos reflects the family's spirit of inclusion. Music at the rainbow, he concludes, is less about perfection than presence. It's a way of listening, connecting, and expressing joy together, the sound of a temporary tribe learning to live as one. The songs explores the shared musical traditions that give the rainbow family its collective voice. Around the main fire or in smaller circles, familiar songs, simple, repetitive, and often spiritual, are sung night after night, passed down from gathering to gathering like oral folklore. Their lyrics speak of peace, love, nature, and unity, echoing mantras from many faiths yet belonging fully to none. Thumb admits that at first he found their naive simplicity and New Age tone cringeworthy, but over time he came to see their deeper purpose. They break down inhibitions, open hearts, and remind people of connection through rhythm and repetition. Singing together becomes a kind of communal meditation, transcending language and belief. For all their cliché and chaos, the songs bind the family across time and place, transforming strangers into a chorus of belonging. Hugs and angel walks describe some of the rainbow family's most intimate and emotionally charged rituals of connection. Beyond the everyday embrace, angel walks involve two lines of people forming a human tunnel while one person walks slowly through, receiving hugs, blessings, and whispered words of love from each person along the way. The experience can be deeply moving, bringing laughter, tears, or catharsis, as participants feel truly seen, accepted, and cherished. Thumb views these moments with both tenderness and wry amusement, aware that to outsiders they might seem overly sentimental or theatrical, yet recognizing their genuine emotional power. Through these shared acts of vulnerability and affection, he shows how the rainbow's ideal of universal love becomes tangible, transforming simple human contact into something sacred, a reminder of how touch, presence, and kindness can heal where words fall short. Sexuality and Romance explores the fluid, complex, and often confusing landscape of love and desire within the rainbow gatherings. In a community where everyone calls each other brother and sister and physical affection is freely shared, boundaries between friendship, flirtation, and intimacy can blur. Some embrace free love and fleeting encounters under the stars, while others seek deeper emotional bonds, and misunderstandings are common. Thumb writes with candor and humor about the joys and heartbreaks of rainbow romance, its spontaneity, its jealousy, and its lessons in letting go. He notes how the family's ideals of openness and non-attachment often clash with human emotions, yet through it all, people keep learning to love more honestly and gently. Ultimately, sexuality at the rainbow is portrayed not as reckless hedonism but as another form of connection and self-discovery, an experiment in loving without ownership or shame. Kids highlights the unique presence of children at the rainbow gatherings, describing them as both the heart and hope of the family. Far from being an adult-only utopia, the rainbow includes families who raise their kids in tents and forest clearings, teaching them freedom, creativity, and community living. A special kid village often forms, where parents and volunteers create a safe, nurturing space filled with play, song, and storytelling. Thumb observes how children move easily between innocence and wisdom, grounding the often idealistic adults around them and reminding everyone of the rainbow's deeper purpose, to build a world where love and cooperation come naturally. Yet he also acknowledges the challenges, hygiene, safety, and the tension between freedom and responsibility. Ultimately, he portrays rainbow children as living symbols of the movement's ideals, joyful, wild, and uncorrupted by Babylon's constraints, growing up under the open sky among 1,000 caring aunties and uncles. Part 4, Rainbow World expands Tom Thumb's lens beyond the daily life of the gatherings to explore the broader philosophy, spirituality, and contradictions of the rainbow family as a global movement. He examines the crazies, healers, visionaries, and drifters who populate this nomadic world, blending idealism, mysticism, and folly in equal measure. The rainbow's rituals, beliefs, and healing practices range from the profound to the absurd, reflecting both humanity's hunger for meaning and its tendency toward self-delusion. Thumb contrasts the family's utopian dreams with the realities of the modern world, noting that its existence ironically depends on the wealth and waste of Babylon it rejects. Yet, despite hypocrisy and chaos, he finds in the rainbow a genuine striving for unity, simplicity, and compassion, a living, imperfect experiment in how life could be lived differently. In the end, Rainbow World becomes both a critique and a love letter to a culture that, for all its flaws, keeps the flame of hope and human connection alive. Crazies delves into the wild and unpredictable side of the Rainbow family, where the open-door ethos welcomes everyone, including those living on the edge of sanity. The Rainbow's radical inclusivity means it attracts not only idealists and healers but also drifters, addicts, and the mentally unstable, who find temporary refuge in its non-judgmental embrace. Thumb describes encounters that are both touching and unnerving, where compassion meets chaos and the line between enlightenment and madness blurs. While some crazies bring wisdom disguised as nonsense, others test the community's patience and safety, forcing the family to balance tolerance with boundaries. Through humor and empathy, Thumb shows how these outsiders mirror the Rainbow's own contradictions, its beauty, fragility, and refusal to exclude anyone. In embracing even the broken and difficult, the Rainbow reveals both its greatest strength and its most painful vulnerability. Healing explores the Rainbow family's deep fascination with alternative medicine and spiritual healing, where nearly everyone seems to be a self-taught therapist, herbalist, or Reiki practitioner. The gatherings overflow with workshops on massage, chakras, raw food, and energy work, creating an atmosphere of care that's equal parts sincerity and naivete. Thumb observes the beauty of people helping one another through touch, empathy, and presence, but also the dangers of magical thinking, when well-intentioned healers treat infections with herbs or rely on universal energy instead of medical help. He contrasts this idealistic faith in natural healing with practical common sense, noting how a few trained doctors quietly serve the family when real emergencies arise. Ultimately, he sees Rainbow healing as a reflection of the movement itself, a mix of genuine love, delusion, and hope, where the desire to cure others reveals a deeper yearning to heal oneself and the world. Beliefs examines the kaleidoscope of spiritual ideas that swirl through the Rainbow family, where every worldview, from paganism and Buddhism to astrology, shamanism, and conspiracy theories, finds a place by the campfire. The gatherings become a living collage of faiths, where people freely blend rituals and philosophies in search of personal truth. Thumb observes this spiritual democracy with both affection and irony. For every moment of genuine insight, there's another of absurdity, as self-proclaimed gurus and cosmic storytellers compete for attention. Yet beneath the chaos and contradictions, he recognizes a sincere hunger for meaning and connection, a collective attempt to rediscover the sacred outside organized religion. In the end, he portrays the Rainbow's beliefs as a mirror of humanity's spiritual quest itself, confused, creative, and deeply hopeful, where even the wildest notions stem from a longing to feel part of something greater. Spirituality and ritual reflects on how the Rainbow family transforms everyday acts, eating, singing, gathering, into sacred rituals that reconnect people with nature and one another. Around the fire, through songs, sweat lodges, meditations, and ceremonies of gratitude, participants rediscover a sense of reverence long lost in modern life. Drawing on myths, Native American traditions, and global spiritual influences, the Rainbow creates a patchwork faith that is personal rather than dogmatic. Thumb writes with both awe and irony, noting how genuine moments of transcendence often coexist with naive theatrics or borrowed symbolism. Yet he concludes that the Rainbow's rituals, however improvised or inconsistent, fulfill a deep human need for meaning and belonging. In a world stripped of wonder, the Rainbow offers a way to celebrate the sacred in the ordinary, a living reminder that spirituality need not belong to any religion to feel real. Babylon turns his gaze back toward mainstream society, the world the Rainbow family defines itself against. Babylon represents consumerism, hierarchy, and the disconnection of modern life, the system the Rainbow seeks to escape. Yet Thumb points out the irony that the Rainbow's existence depends on Babylon's wealth and infrastructure, the food in the magic hat, the buses and planes that bring travelers, even the social welfare that sustains many participants. He contrasts the idealism of living freely in nature with the practical impossibility of scaling that lifestyle to the entire world, noting that modern comforts like medicine and technology, for all their flaws, have saved billions. Still, he finds value in the Rainbow's rebellion, seeing it as a living critique of excess and alienation. Babylon becomes both the enemy and the enabler, a reminder that while the Rainbow can't replace the world, it can illuminate how life might be lived more simply, compassionately, and awake. With some meaningful closing words, Tom Thumb ends Somewhere Under the Rainbow with a heartfelt reflection on the enduring spirit of the Rainbow family and what it represents beyond the gatherings themselves. He acknowledges that the Rainbow is messy, idealistic, and fleeting, yet its beauty lies precisely in that impermanence, the courage to come together, live freely, and then dissolve back into the world. Thumb suggests that the rainbow's true legacy isn't in its structures or rituals but in the changes it sparks within individuals, a reminder to live with openness, generosity, and trust. The experience, he writes, stays with those who've felt it, an inner light carried back into Babylon, proof that love and community can exist without walls or ownership. His closing words are both nostalgic and hopeful, a gentle affirmation that somewhere, beneath all the confusion and compromise of modern life, the rainbow still shines.